This is Jeff Goodman, and welcome to the Good and Plenty podcast. Thanks for joining us again, and you can find us on iTunes, CLNS Media, Stitcher. Our guest today, none other than my former colleague, Scott Van Pelt, who probably is as big a hoops fan as anybody you will find. So we'll talk some NBA, free agency, the Warriors, college hoops, and we might even talk a little high school hoops. So without further ado, SVP. All right, now time to welcome in Scott Van Pelt, and I'm calling from beautiful. I don't know if you've ever been here, Scott. It's halfway from Augusta to Atlanta, Lake Oconee. I mean, you're a Masters guy. Have you ever gone here?
It's good. It's great out there.
It would be great, and it is great. The sun's not out, and the problem is, they've got all these kind of activities you can do. You can do jet skiing, and you can do these kind of bike boats or whatever they are, water bikes, which my wife is doing now.
Paddle boat?
I can't do them. My knee's still kind of screwed up. I got a brace. I was thinking of trying the jet ski and a brace, but I think that's probably a bad idea.
Yeah, that's classic dumb guy behavior right there. Like, you shouldn't, but you tried anyway, and then you know what you end up in? You end up in a brace on your other knee, don't you?
Yes. I don't think water
don't
bike
hurt
though.
Yourself.
I think I can get away with a water bike.
Yeah, maybe, but what if you get out just far enough where it's like 90, the humidity's worse, and now you realize you're kind of stuck, your knees hurt, and now you're just floating around, and you're like, why did I do this?
I'd have to call for help, imagine being that guy.
I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just trying to be I'm a pragmatic person. I just don't want you, like I said, I just don't want you to put yourself in harm's way.
No, I think you're right. I think we're probably going to hit a movie later today and just kind of chill a little bit.
Go.
It's been nice. It's been good. I had to cancel a vacation with my wife like 6 weeks ago. We were supposed to go away, and I had to cancel because of the injury. So she met me down here for a couple of days, and it's very nice, to be honest.
It's a good spot for sure. I played some golf there very poorly once.
I bet you played some golf poorly a lot of places.
I have.
All right, so we're going to bounce around a little bit. We're going to do what you and I both do, which is we love basketball. We love basketball at all levels. So we're going to start. Well, I want to start by, I just checked up the newsreel of ESPN, my former employer, your current, and I want to start by apologizing to you because on the second rail, it's something about LaVar Ball saying he can beat LeBron. And I want to apologize to you because you always told me, you were like, I don't want to deal with that guy. I don't want to promote him. And I kind of was probably the start of the LaVar Ball promotional tour. And now I completely regret it. So I want to apologize to you for that as I saw that because I never thought it would get to where it is. And now I feel... You owe me no response, no apology. I just chose at an early stage when early on in his son's freshman year at UCLA, the only ball that ever made it there for any period of time or made it on the floor for any at all. He's not a story to me. That stuff doesn't interest me. And so I just kind of tapped out on all of it because, as I said on the air, I don't find it to be interesting. It's nonsense. I mean, you're talking junk about LeBron James and continuing to do so. I mean, whatever, man. Well, and why the hell would you do it now when your son is on the same team as LeBron James? I mean, how disrespectful? Yeah, I mean, he's just not very bright. I mean, ultimately, that's what I'll say is he's just not very bright because if he was, he wouldn't put all three of his kids in harm's way like he has. But anyway, all right, enough. We spent way too much time. Any time is too much time on that knucklehead right now. So we're done with that. I want to start, though, with LeBron. And with that team, with that current Lakers team as constituted right now, which – they may not be at the end of the day. I mean, they may still make a move, whether it's for Kawhi and they're waiting for the value to go down. How far can LeBron take that team this year?
Well, let's start with this. They're not better than Golden State.
Hell no.
They're not better than Houston.
Nope.
And so then, how far up the food chain are you willing to go with them? And we know that he is a remarkable talent. But one of the things that he's best at this stage of his career is the ability to draw and then dish to his shooters. And it was Korver and J.R. Smith, predominantly, although you could fill in a number of different players with Cleveland. Who shoots the ball for LA?
Contavious Caldwell-Pope. That's about it. He might be the best shooter on the team. Actually, you know who's the best shooter on the team is? Scott? Svi. That's right.
Yeah.
Svi should be the biggest beneficiary.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I mean, there's some talent there, clearly, some young guys. I mean, Josh Hart, you never take Summer League and turn it into a magnifying glass that is definitive. But he was nice out there in Summer League. Maybe he makes a jump forward. I loved him in Nova. God, I love that guy's game. They weren't terrible last year, and LeBron obviously takes a team that isn't terrible and makes them really good. But how far can he take them? I don't know. It all depends on who your matchup is in a first round and second round. But I don't know. When they got him, Jeff, I was it didn't surprise me at all. That's where I thought he was going to go. And then everyone thought, he's going to go with somebody. Well, George stays in OKC. They haven't gotten Kawhi yet. And I've been told San Antonio won't deal with the Lakers just on principle, but you never know. But if they don't get Kawhi, they went out and got JaVale McGee, Lance Stevenson.
Rondo. Don't forget about Rondo.
Who am I forgetting right now?
Rondo.
Yeah. Now see, Rondo, and I know you and I, and you know him better than I do. Like, we've both kind of rolled our eyes at his locker room conduct and how he's been, he can be toxic, but he also has, according to everyone I've ever talked to in the league, genius level basketball IQ, like genius level, and he can make a team better. So I don't know. I mean, he and Ball seem redundant to me because they're both pass first guys that can't shoot it much. I don't know. Like, I'm rambling because I've done this exercise in my brain and I've gone through it and I've tried to land, like, where are they? Who are they? What are they? Well, I don't know. They don't scare me if I'm one of the best teams out west right now. They'll be way more entertaining, obviously. They'll be way more interesting, obviously.
But they still, Scott, here's my deal on that. I agree with you, right? And I go back and forth completely. And then I think to myself, okay, Houston, I know they pushed Golden State. I get it. They lost Trevor Ariza. I think that's a significant blow for them. And if you're looking at the Lakers, if those young guys take a step, and Clint Capella's pissed off maybe because he didn't get his money or whatever, and they lost Ariza, can the Lakers push and beat Houston? I don't think it's far-fetched, Scott. I mean, they're still the best player on the planet.
Yeah, I mean, and listen, that LeBron is what he makes the rest of those guys will be legitimately fascinating to see. But I still come back to, Houston probably won't miss 27 threes in a row in a game ever again, and as they did in that Game 7 against Golden State. And I don't know. I think it's clear that LeBron, when he gave him more years than he ever gave Cleveland, he obviously took a long-term view at, all right, this is my final chapter of my time here. And if we have to bide our time and we're decent but not great my first year, but then we really go all in for summer 19 and we get some other significant piece, then I found that really interesting because that long-term buy that LeBron gave him lets you know that it doesn't have to be this year. But we know how impatient he gets if he doesn't like his group in the mix, right? I mean, we've seen that, kind of force Cleveland's hand to go out and get a bunch of guys, flip the roster over, and at the end, when he leaves, he leaves them kind of stuck in a really bad spot salary-wise with some guys that I don't know what they are in Cleveland. But it'll be interesting to see that part of the dynamic. Like, who can they get? Who else can they get besides all these interesting oddballs that they've added to put next to him?
You know what I think they can do is build up these young guys' trade value even more. Because if Brandon Ingram is a guy who's shooting 40% from three, which he should be able to do with Lonzo and LeBron on the court, these guys are going to get open looks. Kuzma, Ingram, even Lonzo to some extent is going to get far more open looks. So he'll bring their stock up, and then maybe then you can make a trade for Kawhi as these guys' stock rises maybe earlier in the season. I don't know, but I don't think we can count them out right now of reaching the Western Conference Finals. And again, I don't know if anybody gives Golden State a run. You add Boogie Cousins to the mix they've already had, and unless something crazy happens, I don't think it matters.
It doesn't. And that's, I mean, I called Golden State a foregone conclusion when in the midst of the playoffs, and then they fell down 3-2 to Houston, and it, people chirp at you about how about the foregone conclusion. I just sort of sat back and waited. Obviously, Chris Paul got hurt or whatever, but that's the one thing about the NBA that really is wild to me, man, is that there's so much interest. There's so much that captivates people's attention, and there's a lot of reasons for that. I've talked about it. My opinion, anyway, is that so many of these guys are willing to participate in the fuel of our society now, which is social media, petty beefs, right? All the back and forth, and there's all these kind of fun little rivalries and beefs and this and that. And the off season's insane, and all of the movement is devoured by people, and yet there's this overarching, like none of it matters, and it still doesn't hurt the product. That's what's so interesting. That's what's wild to me, right? That everyone knows the end game for next June right now, barring injury, but it doesn't seem to bug people. That we all kind of know that we're all going to go along for the ride, and this is where people go, yeah, but Houston had them. You're right, they did, and then
You know why,
Paul
Scott?
gets hurt and they missed 27 straight series. Why?
You know what I think it is? I think now people look at Golden State as the villains. With KD going there. KD's become a villain, which baffles me. I mean, I've known Kevin since he was 14, 15 years old. I just saw him at the Peach Jam. And it just baffles me how people can look at Kevin Durant, who left a situation that I think he felt like he wasn't comfortable in. He wasn't having fun. He wasn't winning at the highest level, and didn't feel like he was going to be able to win at the highest level, and left for what looked to be taking a lesser role, but to win. And he's done that, yet he gets vilified for it. So I think that's part of the reason why people still love the NBA.
But we love it until we hate it, right? Like we just that's just the way everything works now. It's the old line: you either die a hero or live long enough to become the villain or whatever. And I mean, in Durant's case, because he left and went to the team that he couldn't beat, or blah blah. Then whatever. People complain, but still, like just watching them play and watching the way that they've revolutionized the game. And Russillo and I talked about this on draft night, when Phoenix gets 8, and then it can't just be like, well, did they get a really good player, or but Golden State, like they become the lens that everything else is viewed through. Like Phoenix isn't supposed to get a specimen like Ayton, because the way the NBA goes now, like you're supposed to find someone
pass on him,
like what, Durant, like there's another one of him wandering the earth at the moment. I mean, it's crazy to me. The whole thing is wild. They're like this. They're on their own little island, and everybody else is trying to figure out how to overtake it.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to KD about how I think he's changed the game. I really do think he's changed the game, because every big guy wants to be Kevin Durant, right?
Yep.
And he has no idea.
Sure.
Like, I asked him that, and he's like, "No, I didn't change it." I'm like, "Yeah, for better or worse, every 6'10" and above guy, even DeAndre Ayton, you watch him. What does he want to do? He wants to step out and shoot threes. I'm watching AU ball at the Peach Jam here, and James Wiseman's out there launching threes, and guys that aren't even capable of doing it are doing it because they feel like it's their only way now to maybe make the – or they just want to be KD, I guess, is what it comes down to.
Right. And I think you could go back before – like, to me, Nowitzki's the godfather of the modern big, because he had handle, he ran the floor, and he shot threes like a guard. But Durant took it to a different level of just like the skill set and being truly unguardable. I mean, the guys. I know he doesn't want to claim 7 foot. He's a 7 foot guy who has guard handle and guard range, and that's, you're right. It's so funny to see. You know, like we had Mo Bamba on prior to the draft, and I ended up late at night down some wormhole watching a workout video of him where he's burying unguarded threes in the gym. And I asked him specifically about that, and he said, yeah, you know, of course I'm trying to differentiate myself. I want to show that I'm capable of that. But, you know, unguarded threes in a gym, people would be blown away by the capabilities of the guys in the NBA to shoot that don't shoot. The guys in the league who don't shoot or who people think can't shoot could show up at any gym in America today and be the best shooter on the floor, you know? It's incredible how the game has changed. And Durant definitely took the baton, I think, from KD from Nowitzki, and now everyone's trying to be Durant. And in the same way, Curry ruins the game because everyone thinks you're supposed to shoot 30-footers. You know, he can. You can't.
Just think of Golden State's gotten and what they're going to be able to put out there with Steph, Clay, Draymond, KD, and Boogie. And Boogie can really shoot it. And they could have 2 7-footers basically out there on the perimeter launching threes.
Hey, I said this on the show, one of the last ones we did before we stepped away for a little while, and I'm curious if you agree with me. I think that, and his teammate in New Orleans, Anthony Davis, is similar, and maybe he's the answer. But I think Boogie Cousins, when he's right and when he's healthy, is the most unguardable big in the game because he can legitimately shoot threes, and he can bully everybody on the floor. So it's hard or easy. How do you want to take it? Because I'll put you on the block, put you on my back, and I'm going to go to the rim. Or I'll step out to 25 and I'll bury this in your face. Like, I don't know who else could do both of those at the level he's capable of doing that.
No one can do that. Davis is obviously better off the bounce. That's where he's different. But he can't dominate you on the post like Boogie can just overpower you.
Right.
But like you said, the big thing you just said was, you know, if his mind is right, and will his mind and his body be right? Obviously, he's coming out from major injury. Does it even have to be? I mean, to me, you're playing with house money with Boogie Cousins. If he doesn't come through, you still have enough where you're going to win it all. I think the only thing that can hurt them is if one of their big 4 gets hurt. That's the only thing, right. and Boogie doesn't come back at close to 100%. That's it.
Right. But I mean, you know, you could say that. Look at Houston. I mean, if Paul's healthy, do they win that series? Maybe. You know, it's not a guarantee, but obviously you lose one of your 2 best players, and you don't get better. And as Kerr has called Durant the ultimate luxury, I mean, Boogie's beyond even that. But, you know, sure. I mean, and they dealt with it a lot last year. Golden State did. You know, Clay got hurt, Steph got hurt, KD got hurt. Like at times but then when it mattered, you know, in June they had all hands on. And you know, when they've got all hands on deck, that's a wrap. So I don't know. They'll be listening to Kerr talk about, you know, having conversations with Boogie and saying like, "Are you cool with this? Do you realize there's going to be times when you just almost don't matter?" And you know, I think you know him. I don't, but I think Boogie's real good at convincing himself and convincing you that he's on board. But the question is, does he stay on board when things don't necessarily go the way he wants? And again, I don't know the guy at all, so I just, you know, I've heard people that do, you know, talk about how he can get sour in a hurry.
He's fun to be around at times, but again, I wouldn't want to coach him. And the bottom line is, there's a lot of, you know, people say, well, the reason he didn't get offers was because of the injury. To me, half the league had already crossed him off their list at any price.
That's what you hear. And it was weird. It was a weird summer where everybody kind of knew that the finances were going to be tough for certain people. And, you know, he was obviously one that, for a number of reasons, I guess. But, you know, then he lands on the best team in the league and everyone just goes, Jesus Christ, man.
No, it was crazy. Can the Celtics give Golden State a run if they're 100% Kyrie, Hayward, Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Horford, Rozier off the bench?
Yeah, why not? Look how good they were without the 2 players who were presumed to be the best they had on their roster in October. I mean, Kyrie was playing at, you know, MVP levels prior to being injured, and we got less than a quarter of Gordon Hayward. Now, granted, that the the upside to his downside was that you got to see Tatum become, full bloom of what he was as a rookie. And Tatum will have to give up some of that for Hayward to be who he is. But now Tatum can do it, which is, that's why he was as highly regarded going to Duke as he was. But I think, I absolutely think so, because I think they have guys that are capable of doing all of the different things that you're required to do to stress them. But be competitive, sure. But Cleveland was competitive in 2 of the 4 games, right? The problem is beating them, and then you got to beat them 4 and 7. So I think we're just talking about who can play entertaining games against them. I think Stevens with that group, sure. They're the best of the bunch in the East as currently constructed.
All right, so let's change gears. We've done mostly NBA in the podcast just because NBA has dominated the headlines, but starting to slow down with free agency. You're as big a college guy as I am. I'm gonna start you off with a brutal question right out of the bat.
Uh-huh.
You can start a program with one college coach. Who is it?
Right now, today. Joe Wright.
Ooh, wow. Who would have thought that you'd even say that with Calipari, with Kay, with a bunch of other guys who have proven a lot more.
Kay is clearly, he's emeritus, but he's at some point, although he and Boeheim are interesting, they may just outlive us all and never age. They may just, you know what I mean?
And Larry Brown coaching overseas may outlive everybody.
Sure, somewhere. But here's, now granted, you can accuse me of recency bias, and that would be accurate. But if I'm starting right now, what am I looking at? I'm looking at a CEO, right, first and foremost. And the guy, he's that. He's handsome, he's charming, he's smart, he's proven that he can create a culture, and that's an overused word, but I think it applies with them. Create a culture where you can bring guys in who buy in. You can bring guys in who are willing to sacrifice for the ultimate end game for the group, and a guy who's shown he doesn't have to get the guys that Kay and Cal and Self and the people at the truest upper echelons get and still beat you. Now that's, when people act like he goes like sifting through dumpsters or something. Spellman was highly recruited. DiVincenzo was highly recruited.
Yeah.
Bridges, these guys, they were well regarded. Booth too. You could go down the list. You know this. They were well regarded players, but they weren't Bagley and
they're not a blue blood.
Upper 5-star. Say again?
They're not a blue blood, Villanova. Maybe they become one now. Maybe you got to put them in that category, but they weren't getting the pick of who they wanted.
Well, 2 and 3 years stamps you as something.
Sure does.
Something really good.
You're right.
So I'm looking at this the totality of the CEO, the guy that goes into the living room and can say, listen, here's how we're going to do this. I can get you to the league because he can show that that's important. You can win while you're here. He can show that too. And if you're a 3-star guy or a lower 4-star guy, you can come here and you can bide your time, and you're going to get your chance. You can contribute. You're going to get better. So I think to me that checks every box I'm looking for if I'm trying to start a program. Now, I don't know if I'll be the only one that says that, but if I am, I don't care because that's my answer for right now.
No, it's interesting. One and done kind of crosses over to the NBA, obviously in college. You want it gone? Do you not want it gone? I've changed my tune on it, Scott. I wanted it gone, and then I thought about it and I said, why are we going to take the top 10 players out of college basketball every year? How is this going to benefit college, and how's it going to benefit the NBA to put all these young guys in primarily the D League at the end of the day, but maybe a few of them will be able to impact in the NBA?
I like them in college just because as a college guy, I enjoy seeing them play at that level for a year. It's this weird deal where, you read so many different opinions and people say, oh, I don't want them. The league doesn't want them because they don't know how to play yet, this and that, the other thing. Well, they're going to know less if they they show up direct from the AAU world to the NBA. I mean, they'll be less prepared. I mean, you telling me a Bagley doesn't benefit from a year in Durham,
know who he is. Of course.
Or a guy, or an Ayton doesn't benefit from being with Sean Miller, even though obviously the situation at Arizona last year was bizarro world. Yeah. I mean, I think that there's benefits that are both, on the floor and off for these young men. Maybe I'm pie in the sky. Maybe I'm kidding myself, but I just, as a college guy, and I prefer the college to the NBA. I like it just because I get to see these guys play for a year, and also, I mean, look at how it works, Jeff. Like, you get all these guys, I mean, has it been a surefire thing? No, far from it. I mean, in a one and done format, as we all know, it doesn't even take one bad game. It takes one bad half, and you don't get to win 6 straight. Winning 6 straight is really, really hard. If it were easy, Cal would have 5 titles. He gets the best talent every year, but that's not a knock on Cal. That's just the reality of what you got to do, come March. So I'm for it. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's long for the world, but I don't know how it benefits the NBA to get these guys earlier. They're not any more ready.
No, there's how many LeBrons? I mean, again, Kevin Durant. People don't understand. Kevin Durant played a year at Texas, and then wasn't very good. The team certainly wasn't very good at Oklahoma City, so he got a couple of years under his belt.
Well, people forget it was Seattle, man. I mean,
right.
he was bouncing around the Pacific Northwest. People managed to forget that he was a skinny kid in Seattle, and they sucked, But now here we are. I mean, everyone, we're all allowed to grow up. It takes some of us, myself included, a lot longer than others.
How about Sean Miller? So I saw him at the PTM. You know what the numbers that he thinks DeAndre Ayton's going to average this year in Phoenix? 20 and 10.
What?
20 and 10.
So just pencil him in for a Tim Duncan.
20 and 10. I mean, if he does that, and he is a monster. I mean, the one thing Sean Miller has raved to me about, and he goes, I know everybody's questioning his work ethic coming in, how hard he played. He said, this kid plays hard. And, he can't stop raving about the kid and his work ethic and his talent and everything like that. And if that's the case, like you said, yeah, we're not saying Phoenix is going to be Golden State anytime soon, but if you got a core of Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, and Josh Jackson, you add another piece, that's going to be a fun team to watch.
Sure, and give me a guy like Bridges all day long.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know if he'll translate, but the guy I always said that I thought he could be is Ariza, and he's got length to guard, he's got the ability to shoot it from range, and he plays hard. I mean, it's like every time you do a player comp, it's like you have to name. Oh, he could be like Durant. No, he can't.
Right.
He could be like Anthony Davis. No, he can't. Show me a guy someone could actually be like. I mean, and if you say Ariza, then is that? Oh well, that's not a great pick. Bull. Am I allowed to cuss?
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. Of course.
Can I cuss here?
Yeah.
All right, that's bullshit.
Of course it is.
Because if you're telling me that Phoenix knows that they're drafting Ariza, who they just went out and got, and they're getting that in Bridges, they'd be thrilled to know that that's what they're going to get.
Thrilled.
Like if this is a game show, like if there's something behind game number 3 behind door number 3 that's better than that, I'm good with what I got right here. So I don't know. We had McDonough on after the draft, and they had to be fired up that they got that. Now they've got some guys, and you said Jackson. I mean, you want to see what kind of step he can make forward, and they got Bender, who they're still waiting on. So it just shows you how inexact it is to know who's really going to become the guy.
Devin Booker,
talent,
like you said, Devin Booker. Nobody thought he'd be the guy. Nobody.
No, but out of that class, the kids that went to Lexington, he wasn't the guy everyone thought was going to be this, and he just got maxed out. He's one of the 10 most dangerous scorers in the league. And by that I mean like a guy who any night, like on a random Tuesday in February, could score 48. You'd go, well, sure, that's what he is. There aren't many of those guys in the league, man.
So what else are you up to now? Now this is your downtime, right?
Yeah. Family was just down at the beach, and we grind pretty good there during the playoffs and through free agency, and then I mean, July's July. It's baseball. Even now, you get to a point where there's a break, All-Star break, and there's just not a ton happening. You're waiting for football and all the rest. So we'll just shut it down for a bit. Going to head out to the West Coast with my bride and have a nice tour of Napa, which is someplace I've never been. And
nice.
We're just how it goes in our chosen line of work. You go like crazy for a while, and if you get a chance to take a deep breath and step off the grid for a while, you got to take that opportunity, because before too long it'll be football season, and then we're right back into it with the NBA and college and all the rest, and then you're going.
What's your favorite part of your job?
For me, it's that I'm really, really lucky to have the autonomy at midnight to do kind of what we want and not do what we don't want to do. I mean, you were kidding with me at the beginning about apologizing for the ball bit.
Yeah.
And obviously you owe me no apologies, but I mean, that's most of the other shows. It's sort of, well, we're going to cover this because he said something. Well, on that hour belongs to me, essentially, and people know that I don't find it interesting. I never would ignore an actual story, but I don't cover things that I think are nonsense. And so being able to have not just the vote, or a vote, but I guess the vote, it's kind of like, I'm not doing that. And so the autonomy to cover what I want and to pass on things that don't raise to the level, that's the best part for me. You know what our approach is. We love college hoops, so we do more of it than most. And we're able to focus on the things that we like and try to do the best that we can. Well, I mean, we try to do the best with all of it, but that's the main thing.
So do you think, though, you mentioned something in that answer of, not covering him because it's not a story, in your opinion. What about when it becomes a story because of maybe the family's relationship with the Lakers, when he's putting his kid in a spot? Then do you cover it? Do you still ignore it? How have you thought about that?
I did. That's when I absolutely covered it. Like, for instance, him going on, First Take or an Undisputed or whatever, and stirring the pot. That's like, I see it for what it is, and that doesn't interest me, so I don't cover it. But if it's him in creating an issue for his son, which then creates an issue for the Lakers, which then they address, well, then that's significant, because we're talking about the number 2 pick in the draft and the organization having an issue with a family member that they then it's a nail that sticks up enough that they need to try to tamper it down, right? That's significant, because we're talking about the number 2 pick in the draft for a glamour franchise having to address that. That doesn't often happen. So to me, that's a worthwhile story to cover, and when that happened, I did. But beyond that, like, I mean, I find it fascinating, because LaVar Ball's run his mouth about LeBron, and at some point now, like, that's his teammate, and like, LeBron's an adult, and he is a full-fledged superstar and a brand unto himself. And I would have to imagine that if he goes to Magic or Jeannie Buss or both and says, look, this needs to end, or let's go have a sit down, that ends quickly, right? I'd have to think.
You would think.
I mean, LeBron James has all the power at the table, all the chips. So I don't even, who knows if it even gets to that point. But I mean, I made this point, and it never made it on the air. In our meeting, when I was a little kid, I talked about throwing snowballs at cars.
Yeah.
And if you grew up anywhere where it snows, you'd get together with your friends and you'd throw snowballs at cars because you were young, and that seemed like something funny to do. Well, then you'd hit a car, and then you'd see the brake lights, and then maybe somebody chased you. And then when you were the guy that threw the snowball at the car, and you were face to face with the adult, then that was that was a moment you weren't really ready for. And in this analogy, LaVar Ball is throwing snowballs at cars, and LeBron James is the adult that's going to come and say, hey, what are you doing? And at that point, like, what are you going to do other than saying, man, I'm sorry about all that, right? I mean, you You don't double down and then chuck the snowball at the guy.
Listen, so you wouldn't think,
I just don't.
Scott, you wouldn't think, but I put nothing past this.
Yeah, but you know better than I do.
I put nothing past him. Zero. That's the craziest thing.
He doesn't. He clearly is either a savant that is operating on a higher plane of understanding and intelligence, or he's truly a carnival barker who only wants your attention and doesn't care how he gets it. I would down the ladder, based on everything he's done. I mean, the kid, this young child out of high school, and took him over to Lithuania, man. Like, how did the kid benefit from that? What did he get out of that?
Zero.
How many sneakers did they sell out of that? I mean, what are we even talking about, man? Like, it's baffling to me. But you know, on the circus goes.
Last question I got for you. Who's your favorite person? You can interview anybody. Who's kind of the guy you just want to sit down and talk to? And it could be somebody that you've never interviewed that you want to, or somebody that you have that you just know it's gold.
Mm-hmm. In the sports world,
I've been asked this, which is why I asked you. I mean, it's a hard question to answer.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's a big world out there, man. I'm trying to think of who's that interesting. I find Steve Kerr really an interesting guy. I really enjoy talking to him because I think, I mean, look at his backstory, look at what he's been through in his life, and then look at the life he's led. Just an incredible life of being, a guy with Jordan, a guy with the Spurs, and now the guy that's the coach of this team who just always seems to just get it. I don't know. He's one of my favorite guys to speak to. The guys that are, or the gals that you're willing to, and I say gals because, like, I had a conversation with Maya Moore that at the end of it, I sent her a note. I just said, I haven't enjoyed talking to anybody more than you and forever. Just such an interesting and accomplished person. I like people that are willing to come along for the ride and have a conversation. And it's hard when people are either so good at it or not interested in answering the questions honestly. So
yeah, we just want,
our jobs are fun.
We want honesty. We want guys who tell good stories. I mean, that's why I love, the older coaches, right? Huggins, Calhoun, the guys who just gave it to you straight with no filter or give it to you straight. Those are the ones you love talking to that can tell a story and aren't worried about the ramifications. And usually it's as you get older because the younger guys are worried about the ramifications.
Right. And when you get old enough, and it's not that you're unimpeachable, but it's like you're not writing your story in pencil anymore. It's in pen, or in some of the cases, these guys, I mean, it's imprinted on the wall. Their legacy's secure. But I don't know. I think we're both lucky in that we get to cross paths with people that are accomplished and are interesting, or are attempting to become accomplished and are trying to figure out how to do all that. And that's what makes the gig and the pursuit of the story. I think that's what makes it relentlessly interesting, and for that we're really, really fortunate.
So there'll be no water bike for me today because I'm looking out the window now and it is pouring right now. So that's my excuse. No jet ski, no water bike.
No, you screwed up. You screwed up because whatever if you said like whatever in the text, then we'll just talk for 10 minutes. 10 minutes with me turns into 5, and then you don't even get to go outside because I screwed you. We got a window where it was sunny and that. But you know what? 20 minutes from now, the sun will be back down.
Straight to the movie. Thanks for giving me 20 or a half hour, whatever it was, and try to get some downtime over the next month or so, and we'll talk soon.
My man, get well, get healthy, and you know the number. We'll talk again, all right?
Always. Sounds good, man. Later.
All right, bro. Be good.
Just want to thank everybody for listening to the Good and Plenty podcast again. Remember, you can find us on iTunes, on Stitcher, CLNS Media. Be sure to come back every Tuesday. And, again, subscribe. Leave some nice comments. If you want to leave a nasty one, you certainly can. I'm not going to stop you, and we'll see you next week.